obvious difference, right? So welcome everybody to L2k Parent and Students. I guess we have a lot of students out there. My name is Jason Steenkrantz. I teach the 8th period section of freshman L2k this year.
I'm Rachel West. I teach the 2nd period of L2k.
I'm Will Rosen. I teach period 4. I apologize for my tardiness. I had to race here from a different school. We had volleyball practice. So please excuse me. I'm in period 14.
All right. So we're going to try to give you guys as much quality information as we can tonight. Give you as much of a sort of pull back the curtain on what your child is going to be experiencing this year. And then we're going to have a presenter from the professional side of life, and we'll have some student presenters as well. And then we'll have time for you guys to have some Q&A. We are recording this, and I will post the slides to the websites and all that kind of stuff, so there's no need to take a bunch of notes. But if you want to, you know, when I see those cameras come out, you start posing up here and stuff. So we've got 3 big things that the teachers are going to go over with you tonight. First one is we're just going to give you an overview of our goals. Basically, what are our L2k standards that we're going to try to impart to your students this year. Second thing is go over some of the assignments that your child will do. So we're going to look at what is a log. Okay, we're not going to go in depth to it, but you're going to sort of get a glimpse of what the rubric might look like and talk about the different types of assignments. And then we're going to just talk about some of the philosophy stuff. Give you guys some hints and tips for success and try to share some of that, from these folks particularly. If I could go back and do it again, right, here's what I would do differently. So I will give you my take on that, and then you'll hear the real story from them. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rosen, who is going to talk about the freshman goals.
I am the new guy to the program, so I get the easy job here. The 5 pillars of success, freshman L2k. Oh, wait, quick. Hey, 5 pillars. All right, we got your researching. We'll discuss writing, presenting, your oral presentations, working collaboratively, as well as following guidelines. So, pillar 1 is the research. And I'll let you guys read over some of this. I'll expound on a couple of things. Our first one here, what is a good source and how do I find one? It's definitely learning that we don't just Google our topic of interest, we don't go to Wikipedia, we don't copy and paste. How do we find legitimate, authentic, academic sources? And you will learn our library has a fantastic database. Those of us a little bit older, the libraries these days are not like it was for us. The resources are incredible. You have access to newspapers and magazines and academic journals. If you really dive into these really high-level sources for your material as you perform your research. Well, one of the site sources, I believe we are APA 7, so we'll teach your students how to correctly use that format to cite, as well as variety of sources, networking, and experimenting. Pillar 2, writing. How to write a log. And I won't step on my colleagues' toes here. We'll discuss logs in great detail. But logs are part of the big assignments, these big writing pieces that you will do based off of the research that we just discussed. How do you communicate your ideas through writing, and especially in an academic way? So this isn't going to be really like talking to a friend. This is an academic piece of work and how you communicate your ideas on your chosen topic. Pillar 3, speaking and presenting. Speaking in public is scary for kids. And speaking in public is scary for people. And most of us don't love to do it, but how do we step up? How can your students step up in front of their peers and confidently deliver a speech on their topic? Right? Again, clear communication. Did it through the written word, now it is the spoken word, and of course, once go professional. Number 4, working with others. We've all been in those groups. The dynamic was just a little bit off. Right? And we're working with all of our people in the group, or some people not working, or I'm not working. You would experience those busted groups, so I can give you this the proper way with effective communication between group members. And lastly, Pillar 5, following the guidelines. This program will hold your students to extremely high standards, and your students are in the program because they are equipped to meet those standards. Right? So we do value transparency, we'll hold you to these high expectations, and hopefully your students will thrive in that situation. F, you represent LHS, and you represent L2k. Which I believe takes us to Miss West to discuss the assignments your child will be doing.
Because I got the fancy one. But I do it. All right, yes, we're going to give you just a little glimpse into what a log is. That's going to be one of the reoccurring assignments throughout all of the years of L2K, but especially building that into the freshman year. Okay, but before we get into the log, the assignments are going to cover kind of three key components. There will be a writing component, there will be speech components, and then long-term projects. The writing aspect is going to come through big time in the logs. Think of those like research projects, right, that are going to be reoccurring. But there's also going to be written components within other projects and speeches even. There's going to be reflection parts of your projects. There's going to be interviews where you will have to write questions and reflect on the questions and reflect on the answers and things like that. Speeches, approximately 8 throughout the year. Some will be individual, some will be groups. In the first semester, the majority are individual, I think with one group project. And then in the second semester, they're more kind of mixed around. And some of those speeches are free choice, much like logs, where you'll be able to pick a choice, pick a topic, so that you can really build that speech on. Others, we'll try and figure out a way to pick that topic, whether it's a common interest or whether it's something we think we want to dive into, things like that. And then long-term projects have a theme or a purpose that we want to dive into. A college study project, right? That's one of those big projects that we really want to dive into. What does college look like? The financial side, the social side. Time management project, that's another project that'll come up, and that's a really important one, so that we can learn how to manage our time, what does that look like, how do we build a timeline for our projects to meet those deadlines. Okay, facts about our assignments, there are actually 10 this semester, so I know it says 11 on there, but there are 10 this semester. So each project is going to be about 10% of your grade, easy math. But no late work accepted. Now, there's going to be more information on this coming, but those deadlines are really important. And we're going to really look at those deadlines and honor them. They're there for a reason, right? So no late work accepted, even if you have story, right? No late work accepted. We will always provide the rubrics so that you know exactly going into the assignment what we're looking for, all the different parts broken up. You can look at it, and so then you can grade yourself on the project or the log or whatever it is before your teacher does. So we'll always provide those online, and we'll always explain those in class. So that brings us to the logs, right? You may have heard of these logs. Hopefully you have. Hopefully you read over some of the exemplars, which I believe were sent to you earlier in the summer, I believe. So hopefully you've looked at these, but logs will happen about every 3 to 4 weeks. The first log is going to take a little bit longer. That will be explained in your classes. After that, it'll be about every 3 to 4 weeks you're expected to turn one in, and then moving forward from your freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, you're still writing logs. They may look a little bit different, but the idea of writing this log is still continuing throughout your L2K career. In a log, it includes research, finding a topic that interests you, and pulling out the STEM in it, the science, technology, engineering, math. Also including a personal connection, right? That goes into that interest. So you're researching your topic, but then you're also explaining why you connect with it. And you're going to dive into some developing questions. What questions do you still have about this topic? even after doing all the research. And thinking of how could you further develop this topic? What idea do you have that maybe no one has thought of before, right? Or maybe it's been thought of in another way, and now you can tweak it to your topic to make a brand new idea. So that's another key element of the log. And then lastly, we have our extension. And there's 3 types of extensions. We can do an interview, so that you can interview somebody in your field that maybe is more knowledgeable about that topic. You can do further research. If you found in your topic, oh, that piece of it's really interesting, I'm going to dive deeper into that piece. Almost like another topic section. And then experiment. Maybe some of your topics would be really cool if you could actually do an experiment on. That's totally an option within your log. So logs are complex. There are lots of sections, right? I just mentioned the 5 sections. We will go way in depth in these in class. So that's just a quick little overview bullet point of the log sections, but I promise we'll go through those log sections more in depth in class so that you know what's expected of each part. And like I said before, those exemplars were sent out. They're also on teacher websites. I know we've been working on our websites with the transition from virtual last year and normal back 2 years ago, so bear with us if our websites aren't up and running right now, but they will be by the school year start on Thursday.
Out of curiosity, how many of you read any of those logs that were sent us?
Yeah.
If your hand's not up, you should probably do that sometime before Thursday.
Yes, that is your homework tonight. Read those log exemplars. They will help you so much. Beautiful. Okay. That's that. Okay. Log rubric. These are also posted, or will be posted, on websites to get you an idea of how we grade those logs. Basically, what you'll see is the 5 sections broken up that I just mentioned, and we're going to grade them on a 4-point kind of rubric scale. And under each one, it'll describe what we're looking for. And if we don't meet those requirements, right, then it goes down to the lower rubric score. So you really want to make sure that you are independently reading those rubrics so that you know what's expected of you. And like I said before, then you can grade yourself before we get it. You know what's expected of you, it's right there. The rubric also goes through some formatting guidelines. These may seem kind of nitpicky, but like Mr. Rosen said before, we'll be following the APA 7 guidelines, but also looking for some other general formatting guidelines so that there's less distractions throughout the page and so that we can grade them. And we have a different rubric score system than maybe you have seen before in a legacy math class or something like that, where let's say a 3-point is at 83%. Also notice that a 1 is down to a 40%. That'll come up in a minute as well. So it's just a little bit of a higher expectation rubric score. So log number 1, the rough draft of this is due on September 3rd. Now this has a few different key pieces to it. It's going to be graded and given back so that you can have some feedback. Now here's the thing, if you skip down to like the 3rd or 4th bullet point, it says that we can revise and resubmit as many times until October 8th. That's when the second grade is going to be due. So log 1 is split up into 2 different grades. That way, you can submit your log to us, we'll look it over, we'll say, hey, maybe this part needs a little bit more. Or, you know, this part, I'd like you to add in a source. Keep working on it, narrow your focus, things like that, all the way until October 8th. So by the time that you turn it in on October 8th, it should be beautiful. It should be 4-point rubric score on each section.
And October 8th is a different day than October 9th, I'm noticing. That's my typo, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. One of them is that Friday, and it'll be due that day. But on the September 3rd, we don't expect it to be 4 points on each section. If it is, amazing, but we don't expect that at all, right? We just want to see on September 3rd Did you work through each section? Did you give a good attempt on each section? Are you trying? That way then we can really get into what does a log look like, what are we expecting, so by the time you turn it in on the 8th or 9th, then it's hopefully all 4 points. If it's not, that's when we receive that 1 on the rubric score, which is really a 40%. So you really want to take advantage of sending in your logs and whatever other projects, if your teacher allows feedback, if you're given the option, right? That's what we're here for. We're here to make you better writers, better researchers, better public speakers. So the more feedback you get, the better. So I think that's the policy we need behind that. Anything to add, Mr. Sanders? Okay, and I believe.
Yes, I do right now. And that can seem a little bit harsh about like if it's not perfect by that October date, that you get a 1 for the whole grade for it. And the real reason is you're going to be writing these for all 4 years, right? And so we want you to have the opportunity on the first one to figure it out. And so to really go through that revision process. Every student that I've ever had who has actively gone through that revision process, submitted the log the 2, 3, 4, 5 times during that month or so long window and gotten my feedback, and then taken my feedback and actually acted on it, has gotten the grade and gotten the 4. The only students who don't are the ones who wait and just kind of basically turn the same log again on. Okay, so if you do it, we're not out to get you, we're out to teach you, we're out to help you grow. All right, so I'm going to talk about some common roadblocks, some of the philosophy stuff, and just talk about our expectations. So we are kind of well known in the community, I think, as a rigorous program. We try to make sure that we sell ourselves and we live a tough but fair philosophy, right? So we're not out to get anybody, but our expectations are what they are, and we hold to them. And we feel like that's one of our strengths as a program. Secondly, those guidelines and due dates are strictly enforced. I know from experience that a lot of times in K through 8, students are told one thing, do another, it's still pretty good, and then they're like, oh, that was good enough, and they get the 8 plus 100% good job at the top, right? L2k is not like that. If it's due on a certain date, it's due on that date. But we do follow through on the sort of we say what we mean and we mean what we say mantra. You do have a late key though. This stuff does happen. So once per semester, you will be given a late key, we call it. Back in the day, it used to be an actual old physical key from Legacy that no longer works. And so maybe I'll dig those out of a drawer somewhere. But you are given a late pass, basically, which buys you 48 hours on any one assignment during the course of the semester. Okay? With a reward at the end of the semester if you don't use it. But you can do that. So if you have a night and it's like, my log is due today and it's just not done, right? Or it's not started. Because I did not spend the month I had to writing it. So that's what that late pass is for. But you can't use it on every assignment, you get to use it once. On speeches, that does work a little bit different. So all you have to do is, today my log is due, I'm going to tell the teacher I need to use my late pass on this assignment. That's cool. If it's a speech, we pick speech order usually like the Friday before speech week. And so you'd have to tell us, not on the day of your speech, but on the day your speech order is picked. So you would pull your name out of the hat and you're supposed to go on Tuesday, and you're like, oh, that's not going to happen. And you can say, I would like to use my late pass, which pushes your speech back to the Thursday at that point. Okay? Multiple projects being juggled. You will see when you get the calendar, I'll show you a snapshot of it up here. You're going to, on the first day of class, get the calendar for the semester, that you're going to say like, oh my gosh, this week I have 2 things that are due, all right? And that's one of life's skills that we want to teach you. Now, you also notice that you were not assigned those things that same week, right? You were assigned those maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks in advance. So it's about your time management. Our transparency and expectations, as Ms. West said, all of the rubrics are posted online. All of them are gone over in detail in class with plenty of time for students to ask questions of us, to get feedback and figure out, what are the nuances of this? What do you mean by this bulleted line on the rubric? We also try to provide exemplars whenever possible for these things. And then accountability is a major lesson. And it's always something where we say, like, yes, I want accountability. I want my students held to a high standard. And then it's tough when it actually happens. Okay, so parents, I feel your pain. Both of my daughters have gone through this program, and both of them have had times where they have had tearful moments of, I procrastinated, right? Or moments where they didn't get the grade that they thought that they wanted to get. And it's really important that we follow through with, okay, well, were you told to do it this way? You didn't, so here's the feedback, and here's the consequences. Usually those things are a really valuable learning experience. They're not something that completely crushes your grade forever, okay? So we try to be fair on those things. And then academic integrity. You know, you're going to be writing a lot of papers. You submit all your papers to Turnitin.com, which is an online plagiarism checker, and we also grade your papers through that website. And so we would like you to do your own work. I always tell my students, I would rather read work that's not your best work, that's your work, than have you make a mistake because you were running late and you just copied some paragraph from somewhere and submitted that as your own work, right? So we really, really value academic integrity and wanting to see what your thoughts are. So here's your L2k life for the next 6 months, or next 5 months, I guess. All right. So everything on this calendar will be posted online. Will be handed to you on the first day of class. I might even come in early and use the color copier without admin catching me. And you'll see that there are things in yellow and things in green. All of the things in yellow are the day that something is due. All of the things in green are the day that you might be giving a speech. And so you've got those going on throughout the semester. And then you've got a whole bunch of, see these little ones right, the laser work? Maybe. The ones that are like right above that green. There's a whole bunch of those cells that just say work time, work time, work time, work time. L2k is not a lecture-based class from the teacher perspective. It is a learning by doing and learning by working class with the teacher there providing support. And so if you use your time wisely, budget a few minutes every night to L2k, you'll see that it's a pretty cool journey. All right, so what are the reasons for rigor? We feel like L2k is a class that really prepares you for the future. Okay, that accountability, that we say what we mean and we mean what we say, really prepares people. I say this in all of the recruiting nights where I get emails all the time from students in college who say, my professor said, where did you learn how to do that? And I say L2k. All of the people on my dorm floor are freaking out because they have to write a 5-page paper that's due next week, and I'm like, I could do that this morning. Or my professor said I had to get up and give a speech, and everybody's freaking out. All of these different sort of things that are happening out there, we feel like L2k is laying the groundwork for those tangible and intangible skills that you need in life. Tangible, how to write a technical paper that is actually clear communication of ideas. Intangible, how do I manage my time? How do I keep all those balls in the air, right? Moving on, eventually you guys are going to go out and complete job shadows and internships, right? So you're going to go out in the field and actually work with an engineering company, or work in a medical office, or we had a student go to the Boulder Coroner's office and actually participate in an autopsy. Right? You're going to go out there and you get to do things and work in the community, and we want you to represent us well, this program, and we want you to do a good job. And so that's one of the reasons for all the accountability and the rigor, is that you're going to represent this program in this high school. And then we want you to be well-rounded critical thinkers. In L2k, we're not trying to teach you what to think, we're trying to teach you how to think, right? So you're going to have your own ideas in your papers, you're going to be able to think those through and provide logical, step-by-step analysis of what your thoughts are. So that's one of the big goals there. And then a lot of times we hear from freshmen, wow, I'm doing more writing than I thought I would do. Writing is really, really important for any sort of professional career. And so you're going to find that you're going to become a really good writer in freshman L2k. You're probably going to write more in L2k than you do in your English class, in fact. All right, so here's the sort of both sides of the coin, the do's versus the don't, right? So I won't read this whole thing to you, but these kind of go back and forth, these bullets about, we would like you to be on this side as far as your mindset and your attitudes and the moves that you do as a student in L2k versus being on this side of the scale. I won't insult your intelligence, but reading you every single one of this. All right, so parents, how can you help your child succeed? So we've gathered both from like certain ones of us who've lived it as parents and also through talking to parents over the years that there's a lot of good things that you can do. Familiarize yourself with the rubrics, okay? They're all going to be out there for you guys as parents to see. You may not understand what all of those things mean because you missed that 20-minute lecture in class where we actually talked through what those rubrics are, but we're more than willing to clarify any of those points that you guys have questions on. Second, please, one of the secrets to being successful in this program is it's all about your mindset, and it's all about the attitude that you as a student have. So if you as a parent can at home reinforce positivity, right? Reinforce you're here for the long goal, that long view. You know, why would I have to stay up till 2 a.m. tonight to write this paper? Well, what did you do the last 2 weeks? Okay, so now we're in this boat. Let's work together to get this, figured out, right? So reinforce positivity, responsibility, dedication. Try to really mirror the mindset that you're going to be, that the teachers are going to be trying to impart to your students. See this class as a long-term self-esteem booster. Really having some bumps in the road, right? I had a senior last year give a speech to my freshman class, and his theme was pressure makes diamonds, right? So some of those bumps in the road along the way aren't life-changing. It's the long view of what you're going to be. It's that forest for the trees idea, right? Being able to pull back and see the big picture. And then monitor their progress and eliminate distractions. If you find that your child does what, okay, both of my kids did, which is, I'm going upstairs to do my homework. And they come down 5 hours later, and it's like, you have 5 hours of homework tonight? Well, they went up there with their phone too, right? And so, I know, when I sit in front of my computer, if my phone is there, or we got 100 tabs open, I get distracted, people get distracted. I had a parent one time say that their secret to success in turning their daughter's success around in the program was saying, when you're doing your work for L2k, we'd like you doing it at the kitchen table. Just so we can kind of see that you're actually staying focused. We talked with them about the Pomodoro technique, setting a little 20-minute timer, put away all distractions and work for 20 minutes without distractions. And then come back, then go do, play your games for a few minutes. And then come back to it, set another 20-minute timer. So try to be really, really intentional about those moves that you make. The way they log 2 is due, that 3 weeks later they have another one due, so start asking about what's their next log topic, right? So really try to enforce those guidelines and that time management. And then we want you to be a support system, but you can't write their logs for them, right? You can't give their speeches for them. You can give them advice. You can say, hey, I know you have a speech tomorrow. Would you like to give it to us tonight after dinner? And work on those things. And if your student is willing to do that, that can be a really amazing thing. But you got to let them do the work. You have to let them learn by doing it. All right, so some facts. It's a year-long commitment. You've all signed a year-long contract. That is so you give yourself the chance to see that long-term sort of forest for the trees moment, right? Where you can't just say, it's October, I hate this, I want to drop. You might hear from some of these superstars in the front row that they had that same feeling, right? And they signed up for sophomore. Okay. So dates and times are strictly enforced. We talked about that. There's probation, and I talked about that in the recruitment phase, and that is just we expect you to keep your grades up and your behavior in line, right? Nothing super strict. You got to keep all your grades at C's or higher. If something happens at the end of first quarter and we have a blemish, we will work with you to try to get your grades up by the end of the next quarter so you can remain in the program. And then, you're going to see them maybe struggling a little bit more than they're used to, okay? This mindset, I've gotten A's on every assignment I've ever done in school, and L2k is going to be no different. This guy's up here just talking. You're going to see some of the struggle. I don't think anybody ever makes it through L2k without having at least one tear roll down their cheek. Maybe. Yeah, okay, it happens. So those things come with the territory. And then there's going to be moments of stress, frustration, confusion, imperfection. But there will also be moments of confidence and joy and pride when you actually do those pieces of work and you get those grades back and you're so proud of yourself for all the hard work that you did. All right. You guys all like a heads up in the first assignment? Okay, there is something due this week that contributes to the first grade that's going into grade book. And it's I think it's one of the only short-term assignments all year in which it has to be turned around like the next day. So you have to print out an article and bring it to class someday this week. It's not tomorrow, your freshman orientation, and it's not Thursday, the first day of classes. I'll let you finish the logical. Now, that article should be something that you consider to be one of your primary sources for your first log. So just want to make sure that, we don't have a Thursday night, 2 a.m., Mom and Dad, can you find a place that's open and give me some printering or something like that, right? Because it's going to be we're standing at the door collecting it, not can I go print it really quick? So just make sure you're aware of that. All right, so welcome to the L2k family. We're really, really excited to have you all. I didn't scare anybody away. No. All right, so Ms. West, Mr. Raza and I are going to be here for Q&A in a few minutes, but we would like to welcome Dr. Kenneth Marr, who is a professional friend of the program. I could say a lot about him, but I'm going to let him finalize his own personal introductions here. He's going to talk for a few minutes, then we're going to have some students come up and give you their take, and they can tell you what I like about it. Okay.
Wow, what a program. This is incredible, and I'm going to talk to you about it. Okay? What's that? I can click. Which one is it? Right hand button. Okay. As you see, after my name, I have some letters. I'm a doctor, not a medical doctor, a scientist. Okay? And that will come into play as we talk a little bit. There is my email. So if any of you have questions during the course of the year or sometime, and want to talk to me via email, please feel free to, okay? I am not a member of this program. I don't teach here, and you'll see how I got involved with it in a moment. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you, I'm getting ahead of myself.